Hey, what's up, everyone? I am back again. Feels like it's been too long, so I had to come back with some more information for you. And today we're talking about DEI strategies for talent acquisition. This is a very hot topic. So I brought my friend Amanda here with me, who I'm going to let introduce herself. Amanda, tell the people who you are.
Thank you. Jevon, it's great to be here. Thanks for inviting me as well. So my name is Reid. I have a background in IO psychology, and I have been doing systematic DE&I work in large organizations for a little over 14 years. In a lot of those organizations, including one of them, I got to establish the first DE&I role in the organization by appealing to our vice president and showing him the impact of what happens to our product, what happens to our customers, what's happening to our current people. And so I really focus and specialize in systemic solutioning and using behavioral science. So fixing policies, systems, technology. For a long time, we would joke in our teams that we're not really doing the hearts and minds stuff. We are driving behavior change so people know how to act right. And you can hold them accountable if they don't act right.
Yes, that is important, right? Make sure people, when they say bringing their best self to work, they bring their best self to work, right? Not.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So no, this is good, and clearly you have a lot of experience in this. And I said this is a hot topic at the outset because, first of all, DEI we already know is under attack. And
Mm-hmm.
also, talent acquisition, as we knew it, is also shifting because we have technology. So, from your standpoint, Amanda, how do we apply DEI strategies, especially right now, to talent acquisition?
Yeah, I think there's been so much going on, especially in 2025. We've had 217 new executive orders this year that came through. And some of those most significantly have impacted federal contractors and discrimination and affirmative action plans. And for those that aren't aware, historically, most affirmative action and discrimination audits have led to claims that were found to be valid, or where they found actual discrimination. It's typically in hiring processes first. So knowing that there has to be this additional rigor, I think first and foremost, it's really important for your talent acquisition teams and your compliance offices and your DE&I teams to be working together and have base
Mhm.
level foundation and understanding of the current executive orders, what has changed, what has not changed. And what I'm seeing in the market at various organizations is that they are either pulling back entirely because they are fearful and don't know what they can do, or they are likely doing things that might actually be in violation because they've always done them. And to be clear,
Right.
most of those activities I'm talking about are well intended, but didn't actually meet the requirements, even with Executive Order 11246 in place. So they actually would have also failed an audit 5 years ago.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, so it's like and this was one of the points of contention with the DEI. Back and forth was how do we know that it's measurable? How do we measure it? How we see effectiveness and all these things? But you're saying that if you are doing it correctly, you will be able to clearly identify measurable impact. So, what are some of those things that people should be looking at and for when it comes to saying, "Hey, this is why we need DEI strategy"?
Yeah, so I think two things that are easy, low hanging fruit for any organization that they can continue doing and they can double down on is activities specific to persons with disabilities in the United States, as well as veterans. Those are protected by separate acts that have not yet been directly impacted by an executive order. The audits have just shifted offices. That's it. But what was true a year ago is still true today in terms of opportunity. And for those that are aware, the veterans community, which I'm sure you're aware of,
Yes,
being a
yes.
veteran yourself, is exceptionally diverse. And
Absolutely.
actually is exceptionally diverse and has good cross intersection with persons with disabilities as well. And that gives a lot of organizations the opportunity to double down and lean into those who have served our countries as potential talent pipelines. And knowing that also some of the impacts for people who might have been veterans who were working at federal agencies, they may have had benefits that have been rescinded. They are under a different level of scrutiny, and these executive orders have directly impacted them in their organizations very differently. There's been a lot of voluntary and involuntary attrition that is exceptionally diverse and is historically also veteran over this past year. So there are huge talent pools of ready, available veteran talent that already has acclimated to civilian and federal working conditions, which if you can operate in a federal agency,
Yeah,
you can go
for
to any
sure.
company.
I've been there. So you said a lot of key points, and as you said, being a veteran myself and being a disabled veteran myself, a lot of us don't want to claim those statuses because we feel like we've been getting the short end of the stick. A lot of people who are listening is probably like, "Wait, Jevon, what?" They don't want to claim their veteran status or disabled status, and we don't because there's some connotations that go with that, as with any DEI type stuff, right? There's some connotations that, because we're veterans, our mental health isn't intact, right? We have PTSD, or we don't know what to do. We can't perform at the level. Corporate is different from military. All these different things. So how does the person looking to get, acquired and get put into these organizations kind of prepare themselves to say, hey, I'm good at this. I know exactly the job I want and how to fit. How do they be seen?
I think some of the easiest ways to go about that, or let's talk about veterans specifically, from a technology perspective and how many people are currently unemployed at this time, there's a flood on every application.
Right.
So when a job gets posted, so I recently moved on from Ford Motor Company. If I had a job that was posted within 48 hours, I would have over 1,000 applicants. So what happens, unfortunately, with a lot of veterans job boards is they are being filtered through multiple systems. So by the time it actually hits a veterans job board for posting, many times it might have already been posted for a week. And now you're just fighting from a needle in a haystack perspective to start with. So I think for veterans, as well as any other job seeker, it's about identifying the organizations you want to work with, what skill sets you have to offer, really being comfortable talking about what you bring to the table and what you have been successful about, those STAR behavioral method types of interviews. Those are really critical no matter what format an organization is using. Now, when it comes to self-disclosing, it's a little bit different for veterans because a lot of times it's right there on your resume.
Right.
As
right.
well.
Yeah.
But social science, despite unemployment numbers, when reviewing resumes, being a veteran actually created a halo effect for individuals when reviewing resumes. And this was a specific study in the US, but they looked at identical candidates who were equally qualified, but one had veteran service. And had done the same skill sets, but in the military rather than only in the private sector. And there was actually preferential halo effects for those veterans because there is an affinity for gratitude towards service, understanding the complexity of the work, the urgency, things like that people do in large organizations really appreciate, really understand. There are great federal initiatives that help connect specific military groups. So if you do look at something like the Army Pays program, that is an initiative where companies guarantee and they make an agreement with the government. It's more like a handshake, but there is signing of paperwork. There's just no agreement that if a Army veteran applies for a job, those organizations have committed that that person will receive an interview.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. That's good. And a lot of companies say these things and they're like, oh, we're all for DEI, for example. But then on the backside, there's no checks and balances. So how do we know? How do we know they're actually doing the things that they're saying they're doing?
Yeah, and I would say also looking through your other military civilian networks. So former military individuals, that's another way to really consider it as well. But
Mhm.
my recommendation to any veteran candidate, and I've worked with a lot of really great veterans, non-for-profits over the years at various companies, whether I was at Caterpillar or Cummins or at Ford Motor Company or BNY Mellon. All of those organizations were very, very committed to identifying and recruiting veteran talent. It's about, I think, telling the story of
Right.
how your service translates, because the military typically offers you such huge scalable impact, and that is a very powerful story as well. Plus, servant leadership is one of the core leadership principles that's developed in the military. And it is one of the most effective leadership styles for any organization. I mean, there's, decades of research that support that. And most of the research that shapes leadership development in every corporation is built on the foundations from leadership research in the military.
Absolutely. Yes, it
I think
is.
it's about pride and ownership rather than nervousness or anxious. You and all other veterans have done a service. You've earned your stripes. And I think it's actually really powerful and very important to own it as part of your brand, the skill sets that you bring to the table. Military organizations are exceptionally diverse. They're very communal in goals. And what that also means is those are great leaders and team members for the organizations we want for now and in the future.
Absolutely.
Um, yeah.
And I know
So
we're talking a lot about vets here, but what I want the audience to understand is like a lot of what we're talking about is transferable, right? So, and
absolutely.
what comes to mind for me is, say you stayed at home to take care of your family for a while. Life experiences count too. I've seen a lot of people like forego, like, what do I put when I had a career break? Well, you were taking care of family. To me, that's one of the hardest jobs in the world to, especially raising if you have multiple children. So,
I love my
how,
kids, but I have long said you could never pay me enough to be a
I'm
stay-at-home
telling
mom.
you,
I think I'm not built for that.
me either. Me either. I'm like, all right, over the holiday break, my daughter would say, I love my daughter, but I'm like, hey, I would love to just be able to do this one thing right now, but she wants me to do all these other things. So she's the
Yeah,
boss, and I have to do it.
absolutely,
That's the biggest
absolutely.
time. That's the biggest part. But
Yeah.
when it comes to those strategies, like the talent acquisition folks, a lot of times they skip over people who have like these breaks and stuff when those could actually be some of the best candidates. So how do you recommend, like, say I'm in talent acquisition, how do you recommend I kind of look at that and kind of sift through, maybe what's not actually being said, because some people don't know how to word their breaks.
Yeah. So, from a talent acquisition perspective, what they should really be looking for is the foundational skills, knowledge, and experiences for the job,
Mhm.
period. That's what they should be looking for. They
Yeah.
should not be paying attention to career breaks. They should, to be frank, career breaks are none of their business.
Yeah.
As a
I agree. I
recruiter.
agree. It's
And,
like,
and frankly, I think the recruiters typically understand that. I think a lot of times it's more hiring managers that might have skepticism. But yeah, career breaks does it matter? Does it matter if you took, our universities allow for gap years because
right.
they see
That's true.
talent that they know is exceptional talent. They want it to be a part of their university culture. They want those students to come there and better themselves and better that university as well. And they're willing to let them take gap years without penalty and still hold a place for them. I always think that talent acquisition usually has opportunities to learn a little bit from universities and how they approach things, not just talent acquisition, a lot of other functions as well. But yeah, recruiters really shouldn't be factoring for career breaks. They should be looking at the key skill sets, relevant experiences, transferable skills. And that's really what they should be focusing on. And from a talent acquisition perspective, it's really important that that's how they're also positioning the candidates when they bring them forward to hiring managers for consideration. You touched on the tech pieces. I think one opportunity that is an easy piece that's already integrated into most CRMs that recruiting organizations are utilizing that's what it does. It
That's
sifts
true.
the skill sets. It doesn't matter about career breaks. That is just null data that doesn't matter to a system that's aggregating and giving you a match percentage based on the job posting and how it was described. So I think it's really about, and from a DE&I perspective, it's about building that standard documentation and calibrating those expectations, those job roles realistically, and then holding to it. And a lot of times that gives us a lot of opportunity to automate based on factors, knockout questions, and the fact that it might not be the right talent for that role, but keeping them warm within your CRM and actually teaching your recruiters to utilize the CRM for additional lead generation. That's actually been a really successful strategy at multiple organizations I've been at. At one, we implemented the CRM to factor for things like veteran status, persons with disabilities. At that time, if you had affirmative action plans, you could have factored for other self-identified demographics as long as it was built into your affirmative action plan and you were measuring it and reporting on it.
Right.
That's the part
that things have changed.
Yeah. But affirmative action plans are still a requirement for persons with disabilities and for veterans. Now, when it comes to other demographics, it's really important for talent acquisition organizations to know that in 2026, there is funding to support civil investigations through the Department of Justice and the Inspector Generals federally. So they will be seeking out through actual litigation rather than audits for things that are not compliant with the new executive orders and their standards. And they have identified and been vocal, they will be looking at proxies. So you can't use zip codes unless you're looking at a zip code and a radius where a job is located.
Gotcha.
To try to backdoor DE&I.
Okay. So there's no looking at, this is technically it's an opportunity zone, so let me see who's around there type of thing. Right?
Correct.
So you can't do that. Okay.
So proxies will now be a part of those potential future litigations. At this point, they haven't happened, so we don't know where those will land. But historically, any talent acquisition organization should be looking the same way we would market anything else. If you have an opportunity in a market, it's about how you're attracting and also ensuring it's one of many streams for candidates to show up. Your CRM is a great opportunity for that. At one organization, we had a live cast with a very senior leader, and the person was a member of a racial minority group. And we actually went into our CRM and we invited anybody that had some keywords that were going to be in his live stream. And then we also looked at people that had opted in from different events, people that had opted in to learn more about the ERG that was aligned to that same demographic, because anybody can join the ERGs.
Right.
And we just invited them to this live cast. It was free. We used our own CRM. It was automated. We just did follow-ups. Took 5 minutes to set up. We ended up with, I think, over 500 applicants on jobs.
That's actually pretty cool, because I hadn't heard of anyone doing a live stream for some applicants. I don't well, maybe because I'm not really searching for it, but I haven't seen any companies really doing that. You get an email and say, hey, we have these jobs available, but to actually take that extra step and do that, that's awesome.
That was actually the thing. We weren't doing it for applicants. This was a senior leader who was doing a live stream to talk about new technology shifts in the industry and talk a little bit about his own career as well. And then we did marketing initiatives to attract people who might be of similar communities or interested in similar communities, but also tethered to that. And at the very bottom of the email, there's little tiny, can't even remove it if we wanted to, if you want to learn about our careers. So the call to action was actually just to come and join this free live chat to learn about XYZ topic.
That's pretty awesome. So with that being said, you mentioned technology earlier, and we know that a lot of organizations are leveraging that for their recruiting, for their resume reviews, for a lot of different things. So with that said, how do we ensure that DEI is still a component of what's being said? Because we also know technologies have biases, because who's creating the technologies, right? Is not.
Oh no. Oh, there you are.
That I have no idea what just happened, but that's the beauty of doing things live.
I was like,
So,
yeah, it's very much a bias in, bias out. But a lot of the art of the compliance is making sure that you have rigorous standards around selection. And that's where you actually want to have documented standards that are very objective, that match your job analysis, things like that, that you can hold yourself accountable to. That if anybody walked into your organizational house and said, prove that you didn't discriminate to me, you could say, well, this is what we did. And this is what market availability said. And they would go, oh, okay. And they would walk the other direction. And no matter who the person is that's asking and which protected class they're a member of. Now, where I think there is way greater value in terms of AI and technology is training your recruiters, looking at your workforce planning models, to pull the historic data, but also look at the market research and like what's available in the market. There's great tools like Talent Neuron is one that we used to use years ago to get static and current data. So that way we could have our own strategies built. And it included DE&I market availability data as well. And then with that too, these technology systems, every organization is going to still be held accountable to the decisions those technologies make. So what the approach has been at multiple organizations I've worked with and consulted with is we just build giant pools of diverse talent. Jobs still get posted on the regular boards, and then you train your recruiters to do lead generation in the pools that you have been building. So find out where you're going to need talent. That comes from workforce planning models. Then you think about what's your market availability, get that analysis, and then start sifting through your partners that you already have paid partnerships with, all the great historic technical professional organizations that are also DE&I related. So like if you think about a SHIP, a SWE, a NSBE, all great engineering organizations aligned to helping to support and elevate a certain community.
right.
Anyone can join. Anyone's allowed to join. They do not use race, gender, any of those classifications as a selection criteria. That makes them legal and compliant. And then you can also start using those as pool feeders as well. At one organization, we actually created bots that we gave accesses. This is pre-AI. We trained some bots to get all the accesses to our paid partnerships and to constantly data mine the open internet, LinkedIn, where we had accesses, as well as our partnerships, and start to filter in only the relevant talent from skill set perspective from all of those into our CRM. They ran 24 hours a day. And also we had a clear logic of what they were directed to do so we could defend it. And it eliminated the human element, which is typically where discrimination occurs. And
like
even
that.
in our future
And
AI,
it's probably easier with AI now, right? That's because you have more capability to do those things.
yeah, absolutely. Like we worked for almost 6 months with an automation team to build
Oh
them
yeah,
from
okay.
scratch.
So you can do that in like a few
It
hours
was
now.
pre-AI.
I do have a question, right? So because a lot of what I hear these days, and we know there's a lot of competition and time is flying right now. I feel like we could really have a really robust discussion on this. But one of the questions I have, because I hear it often, is how, like, when the job is posted, how does the job, the one who wants to apply, the job seeker, how do they know if there's not already someone that's been found? Because I'm seeing a lot of, we're seeing ghost posts where it's like a company will post, maybe that position isn't actually available, or maybe they're just doing their due diligence. Are there any things that go against that? Like, how can we combat that?
So I think a lot of times it's about being really strategic in utilizing your own network as well. and figuring out how to build your brand, how to make people aware of the work that you do. So not just who knows you, but what do they know of you? Now, when it comes to like actually being an applicant and seeking things out, I had an executive recruiter friend of mine. She recommended using Teal HQ. It'll track all of your applications. There's a free version. So, and she was like, oh yeah, just the free version's great. Tracks everything for you. It gives you an analysis of your resume versus what the job posting actually says to kind of help you. And then you can look through your LinkedIn network, understand if you have anybody. A lot of times it's just a tap. More than often than not, people are very happy to provide introductions or referrals. And people are pretty good about that. Most people are happy to help another person.
Right.
I agree. And if they
I like that you're talking about using the old school way of actually conversing and having conversations and connecting, because that's going to cut through a lot of the noise we're talking about here.
Yeah. Well, it kind of bumps you up if you just happen to be the 1,000th person who got applied for the job. It might be that the recruiters are only looking at the first 50 resumes. So I think there's also ownership in knowing that the application and recruitment game as a job seeker is a numbers game. It is just pure numbers. You might apply.
And the numbers are horrible right now for job seekers. Unfortunately.
They are. And I know we talk about ghost recs and things like that, but I actually think probably it's more bad workforce planning and talent acquisition hygiene. It's hiring managers who put in a job when they didn't actually have the approvals. It's like literally, I think those are the things that are usually occurring where they don't have maybe proper approval processes in sight. And in some of those organizations, you'll see like a 50% cancel rate on their jobs.
That's insane. It's like people in a lot of these platforms, and I know we have to wrap up, but a lot of these platforms, they don't make it easy to apply for jobs. So, Amanda, did we lose you? Are you back?
All right. Hear you. You couldn't see me, but I could still hear you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, they don't make it easy. So like a Workday, no slight to Workday. I'm not trying to have y'all come at me, but a lot of people say like with Workday, if I apply for one job at one company, I should be able to use the same resume, but I have to keep creating all these different logins. Like, you know how much work that is for the job seeker? So it's like those are some of the things that I feel like are deterrents for a lot of folks just naturally. Like the level of effort it takes to not even know if you're going to get a return on it. That can damage the psyche. So I'm going to get off my soapbox on that, Amanda. I'm going to ask you now, how can the people connect with you?
So you can actually connect with me on LinkedIn. So I will drop my information in our LinkedIn in the chat for reference. And then, but yeah, just reach out to me on LinkedIn. I am actually leading some consulting work right now, but I'm happy to connect. I'm happy to connect you with other people in my network as well. What's a network if you're not going to use it to help others? And if you want to explore, I also have a great academic network of IO psychologists that are always looking for partners in research, which usually means great brains and zero cost for organizations because they just want research to be able to publish anonymously.
That's true. That's true.
Do not be shy. Please feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time and kind of demystifying a lot of what goes into the talent acquisition side for both, for the people that are doing the talent acquisition work and those who are looking to get acquired as talent. So thank you so much again. I know we could have gone very, very deep in this discussion, but maybe we'll do it again in 2026. Until then, thank you so much again. And remember, for the viewers, put your comments first and foremost, subscribe if you have not, and also keep ascending. Until next time, we'll see you soon.